Welcome to the Den of Dissent. This is a show where we challenge the current culture and mainstream talking points of the day. What is the news telling us? What is the culture telling us? Where is our civilization headed? And by what standard do we judge these issues? Do you agree or do you dissent? Let's find out. Ladies and gentlemen, before I get this video started, as I was making this video, actually, there were a few things that I wanted to say that I didn't. Some I did, but I felt like I should include this and stress this again. So this is a video about the Trump administration and the FDA approving an abortion pill. Yes, an abortion pill. And so as I studied the topic, I said to myself, it's funny how eugenics and abortion continues under different administrations, how that worldview and that philosophy, the eugenics abortion worldview, just continues. It transcends administration. It goes from one administration to the other, and it doesn't die. So I just found that interesting because when I see that things are, they transcend administrations and generations, that's when it clicks in my head that this is spiritual, right? Because why do people fight for this idea of abortion and eugenics from generation to generation or administration to administration? So that's why I think it's a spiritual thing. But I want to say this. I don't want to hound Trump, but I want to hold people accountable when they pledge certain things, when they make promises, when they talk about what they're going to do, and when they present themselves a certain way. So this is me holding him accountable, and you should too. Don't just automatically have blind loyalty to someone just because, you're team A or you're team B. You should hold people accountable, whether you're left or right. And hey, I will give props to Trump when he does good things. I will give credit when credit is due, and I will critique when critique is necessary. So when Trump declared that there were two genders and a man was a man and a woman was a woman, hey, that was great. That was amazing. I liked that a man declared that a man was a man and a woman is a woman, which I don't know why that's so revolutionary, but yeah, I still applaud him for that. Anyway, so the Trump FDA approved an abortion pill. And what I want to say is this. When the federal government wants to do something, it will get it done. It will do that thing. Okay? It will pursue that thing to the nth degree. So, for example, as you'll see in this video, when Trump was campaigning, he gave us the impression that he was pro-life, and he touted his achievement on overturning Roe v. Wade, and, he talked about the pro-life cause and defunding Planned Parenthood, right? And we thought that was a great thing. We applauded him for that. But now his FDA approves an abortion pill, which flies in the face of all of those things, like overturning Roe v. Wade, defunding Planned Parenthood, as we're told, right? So what was the point in doing all of that if your FDA approves an abortion pill? That just contradicts all of those actions. And so this is what tells me that, again, when the federal government wants to do something, it will get things done. It will do those things, even if they're not constitutional. So, for instance, in 1957, President Eisenhower sent federal troops into Arkansas to desegregate a high school. That's an example of how the president, with the stroke of a pen, just goes into another state and desegregates a high school. This is my example. This is what I mean by when they want to do things, they will get things done. They will do it. President Johnson, I think it was 1965, he sent federal troops into Alabama to protect the rights of civil rights marchers, to protect their rights. He sent federal troops to do that. But when it comes to abortion, they won't go to that degree. They won't just take these abortion pills off the market that they have just approved. They won't just outright just ban it and say, no, we're putting a stop to this. We're not putting abortion pills on the market that will terminate the life of your child and potentially take the life of the mother as well, because there's side effects with that pill. No. But do you see the degree that they will go to? Trump, I remember he ordered a drone strike on a General Soleimani in Iran, a foreign nation. He ordered a drone strike, killed him. No judge, no jury, nothing. So this is what I mean. They will go to the nth degree to complete a mission when they want to get it done. Stroke of a pen. But when it comes to abortion, we get all this dancing. We get, oh yeah, Roe versus Wade was overturned, defunded Planned Parenthood. But we're putting an abortion pill on the market, and then their reasoning is, oh well, we have to follow the law. That's what it is. It's procedure, as you'll see in the video. So these are some points that I wanted to make plain or to stress. And also, when it came to Roe versus Wade, a lot of people were jumping for joy. You know, people were doing jumping jacks because Roe versus Wade was overturned. You know, Roe versus Wade, all that really did, this is what Roe versus Wade did. It said, instead of the federal government saying that women have the right to access abortion and terminate the lives of their children, nationally, instead of the federal government saying that, all it said was that, hey, states, if you want to terminate the life of your children, you can do that. Hey, states, if you want to save the lives of your children and ban abortion, you can do that too. So why was that a reason to do jumping jacks? Why should I have gotten that excited about that? How about we just get rid of it altogether? But what the federal government has done recently is they kind of doubled down and they said, we're going to approve this abortion pill. And that's where we are today. So, yeah, those are my words for this video. I hope you guys enjoy it. Do your research. I will post some articles in the link description. And lastly, you know, this is what I mean when I say that, or when I think about different politicians. You know, I know a lot of people had their hopes up with Trump, and I'm not saying that he's not going to do good things moving forward, but just don't put so much hope in a politician. You know, your hope is in Christ. Politicians will let you down. Okay? Your hope is in God, seriously, because these politicians, they just like to dance. They dangle a carrot in front of you. They dangle some candy in front of you, but behind your back, they're feeding you poison. You see? So they flash the candy in front of you, but they give you poison behind your back, and that's what's going on with this abortion thing. They flash the candy, the so-called defunding of Planned Parenthood, the overturning of Roe v. Wade. That's the candy. And then they give you the poison pill, actually, that the FDA just recently approved. When I say supposedly defunding Planned Parenthood, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that. I need to look further. I know that they stripped Planned Parenthood of, I think it was Title X or something like that. But let's see what Planned Parenthood's annual report looks like this year. Because when I checked Planned Parenthood's annual report under the Trump administration, they got billions of dollars. Maybe millions, but they got money. So, yeah, let's see what the annual report looks like this year. But, you know, the candy gets flashed and they give you the poison. So, anyway, you could call your legislators, call the president, call the White House, tell them how you feel. You elected them. You put them in power. They work for you, right? They're your employee. That's how this is supposed to work, right? That's what we're told. That's what the Constitution says. So call them up, hold them accountable. Anyway, let's get into the video. I hope you like it. Comment, give me some feedback, and check the articles out as well. Peace.
I'm very pro-choice. I hate the concept of abortion.
I'm pro-life.
Do you believe believe in punishment for abortion? Yes or no, as a principle?
The answer is that There has to be some form of punishment.
For the woman.
Yeah.
Like President Ronald Reagan, I support the 3 exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother.
I mean, DeSantis is willing to sign a 5-week and 6-week ban.
Would you support that? You think that
I think
goes
what
too
he did
far?
is a terrible thing and a terrible mistake.
The states will determine by vote or legislation or perhaps both, and whatever they decide must be the law of the land.
Welcome back to the show, people. The Den of Dissent. We are here. So, today's topic is abortion. We are asking the question, has Trump betrayed the pro-life movement? Has Trump betrayed pro-lifers? So recently, some news came out about the FDA under the Trump administration, has approved generic abortion pills. And I'm going to read this article to you, and then I'm going to touch on a few different articles, and I'm going to end with another article because I think there's an agenda at play with this, with the whole abortion industry, period. But I really want to drive the point home. And so I'm asking the question, has Trump betrayed the pro-life movement? Because I think that one of the reasons why Christians and pro-lifers voted for him was because he said he was pro-life, and he actually he took a lot of credit for overturning Roe v. Wade. That was a huge achievement for him regarding overturning Roe v. Wade, which Roe v. Wade was in place for the purpose of allowing abortion or women to have access to abortion across the country. Okay, now remember, that was a court opinion. That was not a law. Congress makes law, not the courts, not the Supreme Court. So Roe v. Wade was just an opinion that was in effect across the whole country, pretty much. If the governors wanted to ban abortion, they could have. All this time, they could have done that. They were operating based on an opinion and not a law that was made by Congress. So just keep that in mind. All this was because of an opinion, which really had no basis in law. So Donald Trump definitely, he took a lot of credit for that, and he bragged about overturning Roe v. Wade and putting those justices in that overturned that. What Roe v. Wade did was it said to the states, hey, we're removing our jurisdiction from this. They don't really have any jurisdiction in that area, but they said, we're going to let the states determine whether or not basically the people want to terminate their children. So, hey, it's up to the states to decide. So states, if you want to decide whether or not terminating the life of your children is okay, it's in your hands. It's not in our hands anymore, like we made it or like we put it in our hands for the whole country. Keep that in mind. Again, it's not a law. It was an opinion. So yeah, all that's what Roe v. Wade did pretty much. It just said, hey, states, you decide whether or not you want to take the lives of your kids, basically. Isn't that crazy? So anyway, yeah, that's what Donald Trump's Supreme Court justices did. They overturned that decision. Now, let's get to this. Trump's FDA approves a generic abortion pill. This is written by Rebecca Terrell of The New American. So again, before I get into this article, let me just start by saying this. Trump, the whole reason why a lot of Christians and pro-lifers voted for the man was because of one reason being the pro-life issue, which is a huge issue, because if he would have said that he was pro-choice, a lot of Christians and a lot of pro-lifers would have turned their back on him. Okay, so this is part of the campaign pledge. This is a part of the campaign promises that were made, in my opinion. He didn't say that, he would ban abortion nationally, but he gave people the impression that he was pro-life. Now, his FDA is approving this abortion pill. What do I do with that? Can I still say that he's pro-life when his administration is approving an abortion pill? This goes against the very principle of being pro-life. Like, simple and plain. It's black and white to me. This is a pill that takes the lives of children, and his FDA is approving it. And keep in mind that the Constitution gives the federal government no authority to even have an FDA. Where is the FDA in the Constitution? That's one. Why do we have an FDA? It's the Food and Drug Administration. You would think that administration would want to promote healthy things, right? Promote good medicine. They would oversee the foods that we eat and make sure that they're safe to eat, they're safe to consume, certain drugs are safe, all drugs are safe, whatever, and that they're fit for human consumption. But no, the FDA is allowing a drug that will take the life of your child. Is that healthy? So, if these are the kinds of things that they're doing, then just scrap the whole FDA, really. They approve a bunch of toxic things anyway. So let's get into the article. I'm sorry, I just did that quick rant. But let's get into the article because I want to read this article to you. And then I'm going to bring up a few other articles as well. Okay. Trump FDA approves generic abortion pill. What about pro-life promises? This was written in October 21st. The New American. Great news. I suggest you subscribe to the New American. Okay, let's start off. Chemical abortions are now easier to obtain than ever, thanks to a recent ruling by Trump's U.S. Food and Drug Administration. The agency approved a new generic version of mifepristone or mifepristone, popularly known as RU486 or the abortion pill. It's produced by Virginia-based Evita Solutions and is the second generic version of the drug allowed in the United States. Pro-life groups and some GOP leaders have condemned the approval as a betrayal on the part of the Trump administration. FDA, quote, had promised to do a top-to-bottom safety review of the chemical abortion drug, but instead they've just greenlighted new versions of it for distribution, tweeted Missouri Republican Josh Hawley. Now, it goes on to say that the Health and Human Services Secretary, Robert Kennedy Jr., answered on social media. He says the U.S. FDA only approved a second generic mifepristone tablet because federal law requires approval when an application proves the generic is identical to the brand name. So basically what the FDA did was this drug mifepristone is an abortion pill. And the FDA or the federal law requires an approval when an application proves the generic is identical to the brand name. So it's like a procedure. It's a policy that the FDA has, right, to approve this generic drug that's just alike or just the same as the regular drug, mifepristone. So mifepristone, from my understanding, was approved in, I think, 2000. So who was president in 2000? That was George W. Bush. So we were taught that George W. Bush was also pro-life, right? That's why a lot of Christians voted for George W. Bush. Now, it goes on to say that documented history of harm. So this gives a documented history of harm from this drug, the generic drug, and actually RU486. So let me just go on to read some of that. Okay, documented history of harm. It says between half and 2/3 of abortions in the United States are medication-induced, according to the pro-abortion Guttmacher Institute. And RU486 is the most commonly used product in chemical abortions. In a wildly contentious ruling, FDA first approved the drug in the year 2000. Opponents argued that the agency had not sufficiently monitored deaths and adverse events associated with mifepristone. 6 years later, a government reform committee investigated an alarming number of deaths and severe adverse effects in otherwise healthy women. Members noted that post-marketing safety monitoring by the FDA was extremely poor. Quote, "It is very clear that there is a serious problem with RU 486, said then U.S. Representative Mark Souder, Republican from Indiana. He chaired the subcommittee. Quote, "In failing to address this problem by disguising it, ignoring it, minimizing it, or causing confusion is a shameful failure for anyone with the ability and desire to protect women from needless harm."
We are here today because there is a drug on the market associated with the deaths of at least 8 women, 9 life-threatening incidents, 232 hospitalizations, 116 blood transfusions, and 88 cases of infection. There have been more than 950 adverse event cases associated with RU486 out of only 575,000 prescriptions at most. Adverse events are typically underreported since they are offered voluntarily by consumers and healthcare professionals, so it is most likely that there are many more cases that we don't even know about. It is very clear that there is a serious problem with RU486, and failing to address this problem by disguising it, ignoring it, minimizing it, or causing confusion is a shameful failure for anyone with the ability and desire to protect women from needless harm. RU486 is a common name for Mifeprex. It is produced by Danco Laboratories, a corporate entity located in the Cayman Islands, which produces only that single drug and nothing else. Mifeprex is approved by the FDA for the termination of pregnancy through 49 days of development. It is used in combination with another drug called misoprostol, which causes uterine contractions that expel the dead fetus. This is an off-label use for the misoprostol, which contains a black box warning against using the drug during pregnancy. At least 5 of the deaths following the use of RU486 have been the result of toxic shock-like syndrome initiated by bacteria Clostridium.
Perhaps Secretary Kennedy could save time and taxpayer dollars by reviewing the 2006 subcommittee findings. He might also consider that in the previous year, 2005, the Annals of Pharmacotherapy sounded the mifepristone alarm loud and clear, noting dire allergic and fatal septic reactions associated with the product. Researchers also criticized the FDA's adverse event reporting system as inadequate and called for a fetal registry to, quote, track birth defects in mifepristone survivors. That has never been established. So think about this whole MAHA movement, right? Kennedy was brought on to start the MAHA movement, make America healthy again. And it seems like he's not really pushing back against this abortion drug. First of all, we don't even have to worry about the generic. Well, we should worry about the generic pill, but what about mifepristone? The fact that mifepristone is on the market, period. That's the abortion drug. So this pill has been on the market since 2000, and now they just approved the generic version. Let's tackle the original pill. Why is that pill on the market to begin with? And so to drive the point home, the United States government and the FDA creates a generic version. So they're saying, hey, you can't afford, well, this is the way I look at it. You can't afford the regular pill? Well, we're going to create a generic version to make it more affordable for you, because generic versions tend to be cheaper, right? So how is that promoting the pro-life movement? How is that I guess taking a step back, reeling in abortion? Isn't that encouraging more abortion? The fact that you're creating a generic pill, right? Like a less expensive version of it. I thought we were trending in the direction of being more pro-life and taking or saving the lives of more babies. So how is this going in that direction? By putting more abortion pills on the market. And I want to go to this Evita website so you guys can see it for yourself and see what they have to say about the drug. So let's go down a little bit more. She talks about the perils that were ignored. with this drug. She says, nevertheless, after the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade in 2024, President Joe Biden's FDA responded by removing the rule that a woman must see a physician in person to receive the drug. As a result, Planned Parenthood brags that women can get the abortion pill from a doctor, nurse, or health clinic and may be able to get it for free or low cost. Businesses such as Hey Jane offer telehealth visits in which women may obtain a prescription from a physician and receive abortion pills by mail. So the Biden administration, I think they tried to lessen the restrictions as far as getting the pill when it came to getting it in the mail. They made it more accessible for women to be able to get it in the mail. Now, she goes on to say, thus does the federal government circumvent state laws intended to protect women and their unborn babies. So these state laws, these states that have banned abortion, right? If you're able to get this pill all across the states, then what happens to the states that have banned abortion? This is why she's saying that the federal government has gone around the states themselves that have said, no, we don't want abortion. We don't want to allow for the termination of innocent children's lives in our state because innocent children are human beings. So we don't want to tolerate that. The same way that we don't want to tolerate slavery and, things that violate people's human rights because babies are humans. I think a lot of people forget that. That's what's going on. These federal laws are going around the states and saying, hey, we're gonna allow these abortion pills to be circulated all over the country. That's what's going to happen. That's what's happening with the FDA allowing these pills to go onto the market because women anywhere can get these pills. All right. So now she goes on to say, by making the drug so easy to obtain, the FDA's reckless approvals also aid and abet human traffickers and abusers who can force their victims to undergo unwanted abortions. And no matter the narrative, the abortion pill is anything but safe and effective. Its purpose is to kill. That's what abortion does. Let's go on. Mifepristone starves the developing baby to death, and misoprostol, a companion drug, causes contractions, so the mother delivers her dead baby a short time later. Sometimes the baby is still alive when she delivers, and the mother is forced to watch her child endure a slow, painful death. Let's go on. She says, mimicking ectopic pregnancy. However, both drugs are life-threatening not only to the baby, but to the mother as well, especially when self-administered outside of the care of an attending physician. In fact, mifepristone, listen to this, mifepristone carries a black box warning, the strongest measure in the FDA arsenal, short of pulling a drug from the market. So it has a black box warning. It says it's like flashing red lights on the box that's telling you what the warning is. And she says that's short, like that's the last step before they take the drug off the market, right? If it was anything worse, they would take it off the market. I guess taking the life of your child is not, it's not as bad, right? So that warning is huge. The next step would be just removing the drug completely. I guess, again, terminating the life of a child isn't enough, right? I want to know, what is the next step exactly? Well, how much more harm does the drug have to do? That's what I want to know. What is their standard of harm here? Anyway, it says, the warning notes serious and sometimes fatal infections and bleeding in mothers. Misoprostol adds to the risks, as it can also cause uterine rupture and dangerous bleeding. Moreover, symptoms of a ruptured ectopic pregnancy are exactly the same as symptoms of a medication abortion, said Dr. Christina Francis, CEO of the American Association of Pro-Life Obstetricians and Gynecologists. In an interview with the New American, she explained that ectopic pregnancy, which occurs in 1 out of every 50 pregnancies, is a life-threatening life-threatening complication in which the fertilized egg implants and begins to grow outside the uterus. The condition is always fatal for the baby and can be for the mom if not caught in time. In fact, it's a leading cause of maternal mortality in the first trimester. So it's terminating the life of the child, and it does significant harm to the woman, potentially leading to fatal effects on the mother. So why? Why would you even allow this drug on the market when the mother can also be killed? I'm sorry, or she can die from the pill. She goes on to say, women who self-induce medication abortion can easily mistake their abdominal pain and vaginal bleeding, symptoms of a ruptured ectopic pregnancy, for the expected side effects of the abortion pill. So she can confuse those two pains. And she says, quote, if they don't seek help immediately, they could die, warned Francis. Regardless of where you stand on the issue of abortion, you should be opposed to women receiving these medications without an in-person visit, she pointed out. Indeed, we should all oppose any woman or baby receiving such poison. Exactly. That's what it is. Poison. It's life-threatening, not only to the child, but to the mother as well. Why would the FDA allow this? And I'm going to get to this. Why would the FDA allow such a drug to be put on the market? So again, I thought it was interesting how Joe Biden, it says Joe Biden's FDA responded by removing the rule that a woman must see a physician in person to receive the drug. And those drugs could just be mailed to you. Again, circumventing the states that don't want abortion there. I would like to see what the states do if the states are going to outlaw this pill, even or to be distributed, or to make it illegal for these pills to be sold or distributed in their state. I want to see which governors do that. Listen, I looked up abortion in my state and whether or not these pills are legal, and they are. You can go get that pill. I wanted to bring up what Planned Parenthood said about this pill, because they are promoting the pill. So she says in this article, Planned Parenthood brags that women can get the abortion pill from a doctor, nurse, or health clinic. So let me bring that article up. This is Planned Parenthood's website right here. How do I get the abortion pill? And they guide you. There's an 8-step. They have 8 steps on how a woman can go get the abortion pill. It says you can get the abortion pill from a doctor, nurse, health clinic, or Planned Parenthood health center. You may be able to get the abortion pill for free or low cost. Where can I get the abortion pill? You can get it. You can get medication abortion, aka abortion pills, from many Planned Parenthood health centers or caring doctors and nurses. Caring doctors and nurses are experts at providing safe abortion and non-judgmental support throughout the process. You can also get abortion pills from some private doctors or gynecologists, family planning clinics, and abortion clinics, even in your nearest Planned Parenthood health center. Or even if your nearest Planned Parenthood health center doesn't provide abortion pills, you can call for more information about where to get them. You could also visit abortionfinder.org. Depending on where you live, there may be restrictions if you're 17 years old or younger or whatever. So it goes on to say, it says, but abortion is still legal in many states, and it's legal to travel to another state to get an abortion. So you can do that. Now, as far as the pills, from my understanding, the FDA is making these pills legal all across the country. I think even if your state does have abortion bans. But again, the question is, pro-lifers, Christians, conservatives voted for Donald Trump because they thought one of the many reasons why they supported Donald Trump was because the pro-life issue is a very sensitive issue. Some people won't even pivot, and they shouldn't, on that issue. Some people hold that issue near and dear to their heart, as they should, because we're talking about human lives. We're talking about the termination of a life, an innocent life at that. And let me say, if an innocent baby doesn't have rights, if we can't protect or defend an innocent baby, right? Then you're not protected either as an adult. Think about that. That standard. Think about the standard of protection for life. An innocent child doesn't even have the right to live. Seriously? So, what makes you think that you're any safer? Okay? If they're going to promote pills that are going to terminate the life of a child. What makes you think that you're any safer? There was some other articles that I wanted to touch on in this as well. Let's see. There was one. I'm going to go on to a different article. But first, let me bring up the Constitution. Also, I'm going to post a link to this article so you can read it yourself. Go check out the links, okay, that are on the article.